Hey everybody, and thanks for joining us again this week on the Ground with River Valley Co-op. Today I have with me an Agronomy Account Manager up here in Lost Nation, Mr. Kirk Dosland. Kirk, how you doing?
How you doing, Dylan?
Not too bad. You know, it's cool outside today, ain't it?
Yeah, it's nice.
It is nice. So Kirk, you know, harvest is still just a little ways out, but I know you and other account managers are having conversations at the farm gate, and you're talking fall fertilizer and what seed hybrids we need to be looking at for next year. Can you walk me through and our customers watching, how are those conversations taking place, and what do you talk to when it comes to your customers about fertilizer and hybrids?
First thing we do, we try to get everybody a good sample, and then based on what we see out in the field and the customer's expectations of what he wants out in the field, then we start diving into P and K, nitrogen, and seed genetics, and where to place.
So you get the soil samples back, and then you go through and you look at what's going on out there, and then you got to take into consideration the removal, the crop nutrients that came out last year are still in the field currently. So do you have that conversation with your customers prior to harvest? That way you can have a plan together, and get that on right after they get out of the field, or how's that work most of the time?
Yes, we got a lot of information from the past crop, whether it's soybeans or corn, and we take that into consideration, and what we did last fall, in certain cases, and then we will dive into that and say, okay, this is what we did previous crop last year. This is what we're expecting. Hopefully, the crop's going to do this year, and then once we get that done, then we'll tie everything in as far as what removals we think are going to happen, corn and soybeans, and then we go back in our internal systems and we'll plug that in and we'll present it to the grower, and then when we have all that, then we'll start talking seed. Okay, what seed's going to work in this particular field? Do we want an offensive hybrid, defensive hybrid? Is part of it wet? Is part of it dry? And we start having those conversations by farm and field.
So the idea being, you take all the data that we have,
yep,
and what's been working,
yep,
what maybe we would like to change,
yep,
and then you tie that in for each farm. You pick a hybrid that you think's going to meet that goal.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And hopefully we going to exceed the goal, Mother Nature, barring unlike this year. But typically, you have to let the hybrids do their job.
Mm-hmm.
You pick the field, you feed it, you do the right things to it, and the end result is hopefully what you want it to be and or exceed.
So the idea there being, you got to put in the background work of
yep,
of the fertilizer plan to get to the initial yield goal. When you talk about exceeding that yield goal, is that applying more fertilizer, or is that a combination of maybe I need to put more fertilizer in certain areas, and then you got to, I'm sure you talk a lot to your customers about, the micros that we need to be putting out there,
right,
fungicide, stuff like that. How do you have that conversation of where the end goal is trying to be of exceeding that goal?
It's all based on varieties. A lot of it's based on varieties. Whether it's a heavy nitrogen user in the great areas, your A zones. We talk a lot about zones, A, B, C zones,
mm-hmm,
and you try to pick a variety that will try to run across all of them at their respective populations, and then we backfeed that. If the weather's well, then we start thinking about putting a foliar feed on. Putting all your micros on. That helps, promotes root growth, gets the factory going, and then on the certain hybrids, then we will apply, top dress urea to help finish in the end, and then we also, if it requires a fungicide, we go out and look at it and we'll make a decision at that time. And by doing all those things, and Mother Nature provided, hopefully the end goal is good.
Exceeding the yield goal.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's happy customers.
Yep.
No, I get it. So just to make sure, you know, everyone's aware of what we're trying to really wrap up here is, it's got to be farm specific.
100%.
You
Farm, field, variety.
got to make a plan.
Yep.
As far as fertilizer goes, you got to select a hybrid that is going to perform on that farm. You got to make sure your populations are sitting that'll help that,
right,
you know, hybrid perform at its
right,
best levels. And then you got to do the work after the fact of how are we going to exceed that goal.
Exactly.
Yep, no, it makes sense. You know, Kirk, I enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you.
See y'all next time.